Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Warrior, the Tiger and the Fox. And this was an interesting episode. There's a lot going on, but we did get movement on the main plot front, but a lot of this stuff didn't really matter in my opinion. Granted, it did flesh out certain characters, but you're just like, why are these things important? I would rather just focus on the whole Tong War that's going on than some of the other characters, because we got stuff with Penny and her dad and her husband. We got stuff with Toy and her brothel. We got a storyline going on with Bill and Lee, and then the overall stuff going on with the Tongs. It was a lot to go on, so let's kind of knock these things out. So Penny's whole thing, we just got her at dinner with her father, and her father's like, they still haven't given me the thing yet, so could you kind of bang your husband? And she's pissed off, rightfully, being like, you're pretty much trying to turn me into a whore, so, screw you too. But, eventually, she's like doing stuff in her art studio, thinking about it. No external monologue for us to understand what's going on, but she's rightfully pissed off, and then she shifts back to being in the house with her husband and pretty much powders her own water, takes it, and starts initiating sex, and he goes on it and just pretty much immediately starts thrusting and all that, and that's about it. It's like, okay. I understand that you're pretty much saying that she's in a pretty much impossible situation, and she's kind of trying to do the best for her family, but her father's being a dingle dick and trusted the word of an asshole. And okay, this is connected to Assam pretty much, but that's it. I don't really care. Let's see. Toy, we get a little bit more look into her whole sex trade thing, as she's like at a market pretty much trying to pick out girls. She sees that one of them the guys had used over when they were crossing the salt, and we find out that there is a virgin one there, and from a place that really means something to Toy. We're never really shown exactly what that means, but she takes her back to the brothel, says she's alright, and pretty much tries to give her a good place, let her do some sweeping and all that stuff. And the guy who was selling the girls, who you don't find out his name until he's brought back up, Mr. Zahn, he's brought a dude like, hey, he wants to bang that virgin back there. And she's like, fuck you, dude. No. And he's like, what? That's the point of this. What kind of madam are you? He's like, well, it's her brothel place. And she can pretty much do what she wants there. If you try and step in on her turf, which of course he does later on, and she sees that the brooms drop, sees that he's standing outside the door, she sticks his hand into the wall with a knife, and then takes the dude off. He was at least in the middle of it. I don't know we don't get a complete detail of how far he got, but he got pretty far. She takes him up to the wall, slashes his face, and tells him to explain that to his wife as she throws him out, tells her to get back into her room, and does it very softly. It's interesting to see this kind of softer side of Atoy, but then again, that's only if you're really interested in her character and if she's doing really interesting things. This is kind of the first time that we see this kind of side, but we don't know what that adds to the overall narrative, if it is going to add anything at all. So she comes out and pretty much cuts off the last two fingers of the dude's hand and tells her security bouncer dude to get him the fuck out. And that's pretty much her side. I mean, she is brought up more in with Assam and the whole Tong side, but she is important, but she doesn't do that much. We then get to Bill and Lee, where Bill is having a drink at a bar and hallucinating that Jack is in the corner. He says, yeah, I'm done enough. And the one weird-ass dude that we saw in a previous episode pops back up and pretty much shows that Lee is wanted dead or alive for a bounty of $500 and says that he'll split it with Bill if he works with him. Sits down, takes the drink, and we're led to believe that Bill is going to sell him out. And then he goes to Lee, and we get his whole backstory. That after the war, a family of free slaves came to live with him on the farm, help manage the farm, all that. He grew up with this daughter of the family, Nora, and they were kind of like brother and sister until they started banging. And they'd have their own system and work out, and then she would always leave first. And one day she left, and he heard her scream, and two of his drunken cousins were messing with her, and they were forcing themselves on her, and she decided to fight back, and they killed her. So he flipped it, he shot one of them and killed him, and then took the sickle and sliced the other one even as far as it got. This was a pretty good scene to kind of hit more of the backstory. I kind of thought that this was what it was going to be with Lee. And again, my only issue is I like this, but how does this kind of detail into the bigger overall plot? If it will at all. I don't mind character development and having deeper and developed characters, but you have to balance that out with it working with the story, because if I learn that one dude likes pickles and that doesn't come up again other than, oh, I can answer a question that this dude likes pickles because it was the only treat his grandfather gave him, what does that do with? You have to balance out important information versus superfluous information. Kind of like the Wheel of Time series. There's only so much I can take of learning what the embroidery of these people's dresses are. Before I just skim over it. I'm like, useless information. I'm not going to come in again. Whatever. So, of course, Bill wanted to know what it was all about. And, of course, the bounty hunter dude comes in and is like, yeah, you can't escape the law and all that kind of crap. And he's like, this isn't going to go the way you think it's going to go. And Lee's got a knife. And then I was like, yeah, it isn't going to go the way you think it's going to go. Nods to his police buddies that were backing up the bounty hunter dude. And they beat the ever-loving crap out of him and take him out. And Bill's done this for him. Well, he was kind of afraid because he let Lee help him out with his family. Rightfully so. He's like, okay, I didn't know what I was going to do in here. I was either going to save your ass or I was going to make some money. And he also warns the bounty hunter not to stay out of San Francisco or they'll finish the job. And he kind of messes with Lee a little bit. And he's like, he also gets into why Lee wanted to be a cop. He's like, did you want to do it for penance? He's like, no, I did the right thing. No penance involved. He also asked why he was stopping in San Francisco. He was like, if I could have gone further, I would have. And he's like, you should have told me. He's like, I'm going to tell a cop that I'm wanted for murder. And Bill's like, good point there. So that was kind of cool, but it's like, all right, what's this add to it? And the more important storyline is that Bolo, we see that Mai Ling and Longzi are hiding out outside of Chinatown because, of course, they know that the Hopway are going to be gunning for them. So they decide, the Hopway decides to send Bolo after them because Assam comes in, gives the take to Young Jun. He's like, yeah, Bolo's going after to take out Longzi and Mai Ling and everything. I'm like, crap. So Assam goes up to ask Ah Toy if she knows where this house would be. She, of course, interrupts one of her prostitutes long enough to get the information, and we see Assam book his way up there. We see Bolo taking his way out, taking all these people out, Sam Fisher style, and being a badass, so we see it intercutting, but we eventually get to a point where Mai Ling hears everything going on, and she goes down with like a knife, and pretty much gets her ass kicked. I mean, she does some defensive moves, but Bolo's pretty much getting ready to kill her, and then Assam just comes in with a mighty kick and starts off a pretty good fight with him and Bolo. He doesn't tell Bolo about like Mai Ling being his sister, and he's like really confused on what's going on, but he's going to do his job. Assam even said, you know what, if you want Longzi, fine, go and do it. Not her. And he's like, nope, my thing's for both. And their fight's pretty good. It moves throughout the house at a pretty good clip, and it's a nice back and forth. You don't really feel that someone's got the complete upper hand until towards the end of the fight. Like, they'd gotten to really close quarters and doing it in this kind of small hallway, but eventually Assam's able to get to a point where he breaks his arm and kind of kicks him back into the room where Mai Ling was, and she's the one that takes him out. And it was a really nice little scene where Assam's kind of catching his breath, and Mai Ling's like, Assam, go, just leave. And she does it really softly, and she actually cares that he came to help her out. He leaves. We see that Longzi is upstairs with his sword ready, and she kind of takes it from him and sets him back into the bed and understands what she's about to do. And he's like, they don't know who they're messing with, do they? And she's like, they will. And then she kills him while she's crying about it. I'm like, okay, this is interesting, but I don't feel that there's enough of the character for me to connect to be like, okay, it's still like this power crazy person doing these kind of stupid moves, and I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop to show that they're not really capable of wielding that power. And we see her tell, Lee Young the truth about what's going on, and of course they kiss, and we see him talking about this Tiger and Fox story at Longzi's funeral, and then pretty much getting ready to gear up their forces. We see first the Longzi gearing up, then we see that Bolo had been sent as a warning message to the Hopway, and Young Jun was commenting he thought he was indestructible and all that, and how everything feels like it's shifting, but it's their world and the rest of the people are living in it. And they'd already been geared out themselves, and the episode ends with both forces pretty much getting ready to clash. So hopefully we get some of that fight in the next episode, but I thought it was like, I would have rather you just tease the fight for the next episode instead of just getting it started already and going and then cutting it out. So I wish that I wish this whole series focused more on just the Tong sides of the aspect and Assam trying to get his sister. I think it would make a better overall narrative cohesion for them to do it that way and just make a nicer and tighter narrative. And I wish that they would focus more also on highlighting the weird kind of thing of it being a kung fu western, kind of similar to the one episode where Assam and Young Jun had to deal with that whole situation with the gold. That is by far my favorite episode and can show how good this series can be with a compelling, tight narrative and really good action. So I hope this kind of gets better and kind of shaken out a little bit, because really Penny and Lee and Bill and even Ah Toy's story to a certain degree did not really add anything to the narrative throughput of what's going on. I'm more interested in Assam and what's going on with the Tongs, so hopefully that gets balanced out better. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.